Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the companion video here on my YouTube channel. I'm your host, John Campea. Now, what is the companion videos? Companion videos are, I do the John Campea Show and open mic every day, and in those shows we take live questions. But quite often we don't have time to get around to all the live questions that get sent in, and I want to make sure you guys know that when you send in those live questions, they do get answered. So I compile all those unanswered questions, and I put them here in the companion video, so you know when you send in those live questions, they do get answered. So, without any further ado, let's dive right into it. And the first question we're going to get caught up today comes to us from Edgar Megana, who writes, I know Entourage didn't do well, but will we get another movie or season? I love the show and the movie. Well, you know what? I liked the show. Actually, I liked the show quite a bit. The second last season, the one where the main character was getting hooked on drugs, that season lost me, and I never even bothered watching the final season, to be honest. I still, to this day, have never watched the final season. But I did watch the movie when it came out, and I liked the movie. I thought the last movie was really quite funny. I thought it was pretty sharp, and this is coming from somebody that the show eventually lost me. I found that the movie got back to the heart of what made the show work. I thought the character interaction was great. I thought the dialogue was funny. I mean, it's not like one of these all-time great movies. It's not a movie you keep talking about year after year after year. But I thought it was quite entertaining, and I liked it a lot. However, in talking about could we see another movie or anything like that, well, the first thing you got to look at was how did the last one do? And the last one made less than $50 million. Not less than $50 million on opening weekend, not less than $50 million just domestically. It made less than $50 million, period. It made like 49 point something million dollars worldwide total. That means the movie lost the studio money. Now, it wasn't a super expensive movie to make. I think they spent like $30 million. But spending $30 million, and you got to take into consideration marketing costs, and you got to take into consideration the theater's cut and all that kind of stuff. Suddenly now you're looking at a movie that cost the studio a whole bunch of money. Millions of dollars they lost. Is there any valid reason to expect that another Entourage movie would do better than the previous one? I would probably argue not. So while I would certainly be up for seeing a new Entourage movie, I'd be down for it. If I was a movie executive, I don't think I would greenlight it because it would be a bad financial decision. I don't think there's any reason to expect that a new one would make any more than the last one. And the last one lost us money. That means making a new one would probably be guaranteed to lose us some money as well. All right. Paul Niranjan writes, have you seen FX's Legion and Fox's Gotham? Yes. I really liked season 1 of Legion. Season 2 has lost me, though. I found, quite frankly, season 2 almost unwatchable. I hung in there for about 6 episodes, I think. I can't remember the exact 5, 6 episodes. I hung in there as long as I could. I quite frankly find this season unwatchable, and I ditched it. I gave up on it. So I'm off the Legion train. Fox's Gotham is a hit and miss show. When it's about, Gordon. When it's about James Gordon and trying to keep his city, Gotham, together, that show works. When it becomes a Batman show that doesn't have Batman, that's when it doesn't work for me. And I find it goes back and forth. It's like they figure out, oh yeah, our show's better when we make it a gritty crime drama with James Gordon. That's when the show works. But then they keep getting, now let's do entire episode stretches where it's all these famous Batman Rogues Gallery people. And that's when the show doesn't work for me. So, I watch it. I watched the season finale of this year, and let's put it this way. It's good enough that it keeps me watching, but not good enough that I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't wait for next season. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of how I feel about those. Ryan West writes, how can Val Kilmer be in Top Gun 2 when he can barely even speak? For those who didn't know, he recently recovered from cancer, which needed a tracheotomy. You can recover. Look, I'm not going to pretend to know more than I do. I don't. But clearly, if they're putting him in the movie, they're either going to work around whatever obstacles he has, or he's been able to manage those obstacles well enough that he can perform and function. It's going to be one of those two things. So I'm not going to pretend to know personally, where he is in his recovery and development and all that kind of stuff. But if they're putting him in the movie, I'm just going to assume they're going to have a way for it to work and work well, or else they wouldn't do it, right? Or else they just wouldn't put him in it. Let's see. Razor's Edge Frisbee writes, Thoughts on The Witch? I loved it. Anna Taylor-Joy was great. The build-up was really uncomfortable in a good way. My God, that third act was unnerving. I quite enjoyed The Witch. As a matter of fact, Dennis was just over here last night, or a couple nights ago, and we were talking about a bunch of things. And actually, The Witch came up because he and I went to go see The Witch together when it first came out. And I remember going, "Oh my God, I really like this movie." And I thought, most of the time, I'm pretty good at, hey, I like this movie or didn't like this movie, but I really think most people will like or not like. I'm usually pretty good, not never exact, but usually pretty good at that. I thought everybody, especially horror fans, would really like The Witch. I mean, people who don't like horror, I didn't expect them to like The Witch, but I thought people, especially people who do like horror, I thought they were going to love the movie. And you know what? That film got some backlash from the horror fan community, which totally surprised me, because I thought the movie was great. And the Black Phillip part and all that kind of, what dost thou want? What dost thou offer? I mean, I'm getting chills just thinking about that scene. That scene was incredible. I thought it was a very unnerving film. I thought it was brilliantly paced. It's one of those movies that just kind of drew me in from the beginning and left me going, whoa, like at the end of it. Now, I didn't think it deserved an Academy Award or anything like that, but I thought it was really good, and I was really surprised about how many people didn't. But hey, that's why all film's subjective. Let's see. Razor's Edge Frisbee writes, that movie didn't leave my brain for like a month. No, I'm not going to say a month for me, but a couple of days. I was like still simmering on that movie for like a couple of days after I saw it. So, hey, it worked for me. It didn't work for some people. 31 Kings writes, Halloween trailer drops tomorrow. Obviously, this is a question that came in before the Halloween trailer dropped. Are you excited? Answer, no. Was not excited for that trailer at all. Have not been excited for the movie. Don't care about the Halloween franchise one lick. But then the trailer did drop the day after you wrote this. And I liked it. Color me pleasantly surprised. I liked it. I thought it was a good, solid trailer. And I'm always talking about how the job of a trailer is to take your excitement level, however high or however low it is, and bump it up a few notches. And this trailer bumped it up a lot of notches for me, because I could not give two squirts of piss about the Halloween movie at all until I saw the trailer. And then I saw the trailer and went, you know what? All right, I'm looking forward to this. I'm not jumping up and down about it. I'm not super excited about it, but you know what? You've taken me from not caring at all to, yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing this movie now. That's a huge step. And that's how good of a job that trailer did. So kudos to whoever put that trailer together, because you got this guy, at least one, who was not on board with this movie. Now I'm on board. So good job on the trailer. Let's see. Third Man 3 writes, what do you think of these people who say Star Wars is owned by the fans? Ludicrous. It's not, and I don't know why they think it is. The fan base is vast and committed, but their input is like any other franchise. Indeed, you're right. I remember back in the day, I can't remember if I was with the movie vlog or the movie blog back at the time, or if I was with AMC at the time, but I remember there was a whole bunch of discussions still going on about the special editions, right? And some people saying George Lucas had no right to do that to these movies. These movies now belong to the fans. He shouldn't have messed with that, blah, blah, blah. And I don't like the special editions. Let's be clear about that. There's some good things in the special editions, sure. But overall, I do not like the special edition stuff. Han shot first and what have you. But I remember making this video that even though, hey guys, for all of you who are saying that George had no right to do this, they were better as they were, I agree with you. I'm on your side that they were better as they were. However, make no mistake about it. Star Wars does not belong to you. Star Wars does not belong to me. Anybody who's saying that is just saying words. Blah, blah, ookie spooky. Like anybody can say words. So you can say those words all you want. It doesn't make them true. Star Wars at the time belonged to George Lucas. And he can do whatever the hell he wants with those movies. They're his movies at the time. And so I'm like, I'm with you. I'm on the same team as you guys. I don't like the special editions whatsoever. I do not like the special editions whatsoever. However, just because I don't like the special editions does not mean that George Lucas didn't have a right to do that. Yes, he frickin' did. They're his movies, and he did them. I don't think he should have done them, but it was his right to do them. because they're his movies. Just because you love those movies so much does not make the ownership yours. It makes it his still. And you know, I still say the same thing about the prequels. I hate the prequels, but for all the people who kind of on the surface you would think we're on the same side of them, who's saying they should just wipe out the prequels from canon, I'm going, whoa, time out. Look, I don't like the prequels either, brother. I think they're atrocious. However, I'm going to stand up and defend them here because they are canon. Whether you like it or not, they're canon. You know how I make the illustration that the prequels are your drug addict Uncle Tony, an embarrassment to the family, but he's still family. That's what the prequels are to me. They're an embarrassment to the Star Wars family, but make no mistake, they're still part of the Star Wars family, and they need to be protected as such. And so now today again, yet again, we have groups of fans who yell, Lucasfilm needs to understand that the movies don't belong to them, they belong to the fans. No, they don't. No, they don't. Any more than they belong to the fans instead of George Lucas when he made the special editions. Any more than they belong to the fans when, still under George Lucas, they made the prequels. Any more than it is now. The movies do not belong to us. They belong to the studio, and they're going to make the movies they want to make. And then you decide if you want to watch the movies or not. And it's just that simple. Just that simple. Anyway, let's see. MJ writes, I know you're no fan of 3D, that's an understatement, but the How to Train Your Dragon movies, they do it right, see it in 3D, you won't regret it. Oh yeah, you will. No, it's the same movie. Believe me, it's the exact same movie whether you watch it in 3D or not. Now, you may be somebody who appreciates 3D, and that's great. I have seen several movies that I think are done very well in 3D. Avatar, Paul Bettany's Priest. Hey, you may not like the movie Priest that starred Paul Bettany, but the 3D in that movie was very good, well put together 3D. And it was a post-conversion 3D. Most people only like 3D if it's shot in 3D. This was a post-conversion 3D, but they took like a year to do the post-conversion on the 3D in Priest, and it actually turned out right. And guess what? Still doesn't add anything to the movie. It's still a stupid, useless gimmick. It's still the exact same story with the exact same characters, saying the exact same dialogue with the exact same first, second, and third acts. It's the exact same movie. And if you don't like 3D, it's, you know what it reminds me of? Here's what it reminds me of, MJ. I don't like beer. As a Canadian, people look at me like I'm some kind of alien. You don't like beer? But you're Canadian, I know. But I don't like beer. And all through my life, I have constantly had people say, oh yes, but you haven't tried this beer. You should try this beer, John, because this beer's great and blah, blah. It's beer. But John, try this. This is a German ale from blah, blah, blah. Tastes like beer. Okay, you don't like 3D, but see this movie in 3D. It's 3D. It's still a useless, schlocky gimmick. And to me, if it works for you, awesome. I don't take any of that away from you. If you like 3D and it works for you, that is awesome. I celebrate that. Fantastic. But for me, beer is beer is beer is beer. It all tastes the frickin' same to me. It's beer. I don't like the taste of beer. So it doesn't matter what beer. I don't care what Austrian 17th century brewmeister who made this with his last dying breath and put the tear of an angel into the original recipe, and it has been sealed in this keg for 300 years, and now you're about to taste the great. It's still just beer to my taste buds. I don't care what beer you put in front of me, I ain't gonna like it because I don't like beer. So you can put whatever movie you want in 3D. It's still just 3D. It's still, to me, a useless, schlocky gimmick. So that's just what it is. I mean, if it works for you, MJ, that's awesome. And the How to Train Your Dragon movies are incredible, and I love them. But no, it's still the same movie. You're still walking out of the exact same movie. You just watched it with some tinted film over your eyes, and I didn't. That's the only difference. So anyway, there you go. But I'm glad you like it in 3D, man. I'm glad you get some enjoyment out of it. Paul Niranjan writes, Ash vs. the Evil Dead, I can't believe it's over. Yeah, I've never even really watched the show. I watched a few episodes. I remember back in the day at my old job, we had Bruce Campbell and the cast of Ash vs. the Evil Dead coming in, and I didn't even want to go into the studio and meet them because I didn't want to lie to them and say, I love your show, man, because I didn't even watch it. So, but that being said, I know a lot of people that did watch it. And like you, Paul, almost everybody that I know that watched it loved the show. They all said it's really great and really fun. And it's on my list of, I got a long list. I don't know if I'll ever get around to it. But yeah, one of these days I'd be curious to sit down and binge through Ash vs. the Evil Dead. Everybody said it's really good. So I'd be curious to check it out sometime. Matthew Graves writes, hey, John, are you going to E3 this year? It's funny. No, I'm not. I've never gone to E3. I will probably never go to E3. I'm perfectly happy sitting down a few days into E3 and just watching all the presentations on YouTube and watching all the new games that are announced. I'm perfectly happy doing it that way. My buddies are all going to E3. Anne is going to E3. Everybody's going to E3. I'm not. Like I said, I'm more than perfectly happy to just sit down and watch on YouTube all the presentations on YouTube and be perfectly happy that way. Spencer Smothers writes, I saw the Poe and Rey meeting scene. I always saw the Poe and Rey meeting scene was to show an attraction between the two to set up a romantic relationship between the two in episode 9. Okay, if that's the way you see it, that's great. Hello, I am Poe. Hello, I am Rey. I felt nothing in that scene. Them just bumping. I mean, here would be my argument, Spencer. My personal argument would be, if that was their goal, then they blew it, because there was no, nor would there be any reason for there to be any attraction there, other than the fact that they're two very good-looking people. Hi, I'm Poe. Hi, I'm Rey. If the goal of that thing was to show attraction and set up a romantic interest, then then it's pretty shallow. It's pretty shallow and thin and weak. So yeah, I didn't see any of it. Plus, what would be the point? Why would Rian Johnson be setting up something for episode 9 when he's not directing episode 9? Unless JJ specifically said to him, hey, I want to have a romantic relationship between Poe and Rey for episode 9. And Ryan went, okay, yeah, then I'll put that in. But I can't see that being the case either. So, but hey, look, that's how you saw it. That's how you interpreted it. And you may be right and I may be wrong. I see it differently, but that doesn't mean I'm right. You could be right. I mean, that could be the way it does. No matter how much I try to bend my head to try to see it that way, I just can't see it that way. But that doesn't mean you're wrong. You could be right, man. Dylan Flickinger writes, will Daniel Bruhl return as Zemo in the MCU? Probably not. I don't see why he would, and I don't see what the need for him is. He was a broken man who hatched a plot out of his brokenness. I didn't think he was all that good of a villain. I think Daniel Bruhl turned in a terrific performance because he's Daniel Bruhl and he's that level of an actor. But I thought it was a throwaway villain. I really did. I don't see any justification or need to bring that character back. It's not like he has any kind of superpowers, or it's not like he's the most genius man in the world or anything like that. So I don't see it. I mean, you could if you wanted to. I just see what the narrative purpose would be to bring him back. Caleb Bradford writes, have you seen Cloak and Dagger? If so, thoughts? Yes, I've seen Cloak and Dagger, the first 2 episodes. I'll just tell you right now, I liked it. I'm going to put up a review on my channel here probably today sometime, or it might already be up by the time I put this video up. My review for that might already be up, so check it out. But I will tell you at least right now that I've liked it. Unbeatable writes, better 1-2 punch soundtrack, Guardians of the Galaxy 1 and 2 or Deadpool 1 and 2? Oh, to me, no question, Guardians of the Galaxy 1 and 2. Because it's full, like, with Deadpool, I can pick out 1 or 2 songs that I enjoyed, and that, stand out to me with the way they were used. Guardians of the Galaxy, both part 1s and part 2s, are just filled with them, right? So on that, I'm not saying which movies I think are better. I'm just simply saying that I think the soundtracks for Guardians of the Galaxy is the better 1-2 punch than the soundtracks of Deadpool 1 and 2. Edgar Megana writes, box office predictions for the new Halloween movie. Hard to say. We're still a ways away from it coming out, so it's really impossible to say. I'm going to guess 35 million opening weekend, which would be pretty good. That would be pretty good. But yeah, I'm going to guess 35 million. I mean, Ocean's 8 just opened with 41, which is great. So I think Halloween can do 35. But again, I completely reserve the right to just say, don't take that answer seriously. Let's wait till we get closer to at least October. Before, actually, let me just pull up something here. 2018 release date. October 19th. So let's wait until we get at least close to the end of September. Let's wait till we're at least 3 or 4 weeks away before we try doing any like real predictions. But for now, just off the top of my head, I'll say 35 million, but I completely reserve the right to say don't take that number seriously. Let's wait till we get a little bit closer, see how good of a job they do at getting the audience excited to go see it. Let's see. Michael Myers writes, I knew I would get you on board, John. Well, hey, the trailer did the job, man. Trailer did the job. It got me on board. So well done to them, because I was somebody who was, like I said earlier, could not give 2 squirts of piss about a Halloween movie. They put out a trailer and they got me on board. So you know what? Well done. Well done to them. Let's see. David Atkins writes, advice, John. Italian girl at work I really like. She has a boyfriend, but hints she really likes me, blushes while talking to me, laughs at my corny jokes, glances at me many times. How do I approach it? You leave it the hell alone. If she has a boyfriend, you stay the hell out. Stay the hell out. You're asking for nothing but problems or making yourself the villain in somebody else's story. If her thing with her boyfriend isn't going to work, then let it not work. And then after it doesn't work, then you come in. Because here's the deal. If you make moves on this girl who has another boyfriend, then what you're saying is, hey, every other guy out there, if I start dating this girl, it's totally cool if you start hitting on her and make moves on her too. Because you did it when she had a boyfriend. Well, John, that's different. No different. No different. So I would suggest just cool your heels. Let her and her boyfriend situation work itself out. Then once it's done, if it gets done, but if it's done, then you take it to the next step and then you express interest and blah, blah. But do not do that, because if you pursue it now, then what you are telling everybody else in the world is, hey, if I start dating this girl, hey, all the other guys, well, it's cool if you hit on her. It's totally cool if you try to take her from me because I did the same thing to her last boyfriend. And you don't want to be in that situation. Make sure you can look at yourself in the mirror and go, I kept it above board. That's the best thing to do. Let's see. Koba writes, why does Flash get a TV and movie then? Well, this has been an ongoing topic we've had for the last while. Is like, for those of you who don't know, like DC stepped in. As you know, the CW DC shows, particularly Arrow, was using the character Deathstroke, right? That was played extremely well by actor Manu Bennett, who was also in Spartacus, by the way. He was great in that. Anyway. Then they decided they were going to use Deathstroke in the movies, and you had that little Joe Manganiello cameo at the end of Justice League as Deathstroke. And Warner Brothers told CW, you can't use Deathstroke anymore because we're going to be using him in the movies. Well, I'm not going to go into my whole rant here again, but what's the point then of having 2 separate universes? What's the point of having a television and movie universe if you're going to tell the TV universe they can't use certain characters because you're going to use them in the movie? What's the point then? And one of the things I also bring up is like, why, like, you've got 2 different versions of Flash. You got 2 different Supermen. You got a Superman in the DCU. You got a Superman in the CW shows. I mean, you had a Suicide Squad in TV. You got a Suicide Squad in the movies. Why now? Like, why all of a sudden you're picking and choosing which character? Batman, I understand. Batman's too valuable of an IP to fiddle around with on television. I get that. But Deathstroke? Give me a break. Yeah, so you and me both, Koba, completely wondering about it. I don't understand their rationality. Let's see. Matt Guillemette writes, I'm assuming you're from Quebec, Matt. Do you vote for the Canadian elections? Do you think we will see Anakin's Force Ghost in 9 to save Kylo? Well, I'll answer one of the questions. I do not vote in the Canadian elections. I could, because I have Canadian citizenship. I do not vote, although I believe voting is a tremendously important thing that everybody should participate in. However, as much as I would love to involve myself in the Canadian political system, I do not have the time, and I don't live in a news area where they report on it. I am not brushed up on what the issues are, and I'm not really informed of what's going on in the Canadian political landscape. I simply don't feel qualified to vote. And I'm not one of these brain dead, I'm liberal, therefore I vote liberal no matter what. I'm conservative, therefore I vote conservative no matter what. idiocy. I don't just vote down party lines. So I'm not going to insert myself in the Canadian elections when I'm just in a situation where I can't really keep up with what's going on over there, and I'm not really up to date on the issues. So I make a choice for myself that I think the most responsible thing for me to do is probably not to vote. Now, normally voting is the most responsible thing you should do, and you should vote. You should always vote, but I don't even live there right now. I don't know what the issues are. I can't keep up to date, so I'm not going to go in there and throw in a blind ballot. I don't think that would be responsible of me. And maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong. That's just how I feel about it. So I probably won't be doing that. And when we see, okay, I was just touching Anakin thing. I don't think so. No, I don't think we're going to see Anakin pop up in episode 9, because I think they've made it very, very clear this movie is not, this story isn't redeeming Kylo Ren. Kylo Ren is gone now. Sorry, Ben Solo is gone. All that's left is Kylo Ren. So I think that they've made that pretty clear in the movies, in my opinion. King D'Chala writes, was talking Star Wars with a friend. He hates the prequels, but Jar Jar is his favorite character of all time. Still speechless. And you know what? And therein again lies the beauty of the most important thing to know about film. It's all subjective. It is really weird to find somebody who hates the prequels. Like, I'll find some people that like Jar Jar, but normally those people also like the prequels, right? I mean, that's usually goes hat in hand. But doesn't like the prequels, yet loves Jar Jar. That is a rare one. I have not come across that one yet. But again, it's all subjective. If it worked, if that character worked for him, then the character worked for him. More power to him, man. But you're right, that is a rare one. I've never come across that. I've honestly never come across somebody who dislikes the prequels, yet loves Jar Jar. I mean, just first of all, usually most people, even people who like the prequels, don't like Jar Jar. But those rare occasions that you find people that like Jar Jar, almost 100% down the line, they also like the prequels as a whole. That makes sense. Somebody who hates the prequels but likes Jar Jar, that's a rare, rare person. But again, it's all subjective, man, so more power to him. Let's see. Adam Kane writes, hey, John, what's a famous movie you haven't seen? For me, it's Manchurian Candidate. I can't really think of any that I haven't seen. I mean, look, I've been doing this whole movie punditry thing. It's going to be 15 years on the 13th. On June 13th, I believe it's going to be 15 years that I've been doing movie punditry. First as an active side hobby, and then that eventually became my profession. But it was in 2003, the summer of 2003, that I wrote my first blog post on my newly created website, The Movie Blog. And so in 15 years, I've had 15 years to go, okay, well, wow, there is this one big movie I have never watched. I need to watch it. I've had 15 years to get caught up. So honestly, off the top of my head, I can't think of any big, significant, important films that I've never gotten around to watching. I think I've pretty much seen them all. I think. I could be wrong, but I think off the top of my head, that's one. And do see The Manchurian Candidate, by the way. Luna Comics writes, John, I noticed that there's not a lot of Native American characters / actors that take place in present or future settings. Why is that? I don't know. You tell me. Look, there is a lack of representation of a lot of people groups in movies. There just is. There's a lack of... How many movies have you seen, other than Crazy Rich Asians, which is coming out? How many movies have you seen in the past 3 years that had their lead characters as Asian actors? How many? I bet you can't fill up one hand. But there are a lot of people groups that are underrepresented. And other than like a Wind River, which was awesome, by the way, it's difficult to think of any. It's just another great example of an underused, underrepresented people group in Hollywood. And that's a proud Hollywood history. You can notice my sarcasm, of course. That's a Hollywood tradition, it seems like. Let's see. Andy L. writes, Kennedy leaving Star Wars, good or bad? A bit of both. I don't know that her leaving Star Wars is good for Star Wars, but I do believe it's time. And I'm not going to go into all my reasons again. I made a video about this the other day. Yeah, I mean, it really all depends on your point of view, whether it be good or bad. I made a video expressing why I do believe she should step down. I have all the respect in the world for Kathleen Kennedy, but that being said, it doesn't change the facts. And the facts, I think it's a good time for her to step down. Warner Brothers, or I'm going to say Disney, is not going to force her out. She's made them way too much money. They're not going to force her out. At least not unless episode 9 tanks or something like that. But it's really up to the individual to decide if they think that would be a good or a bad thing. Let's see. Mario Fokker writes, Infinity War theory. I think Doctor Strange still lives in astral form, and I think he'll guide Tony Stark to the correct outcome for victory. Nah, I don't think so. I think Doctor Strange 1 made it pretty clear there's not a separation. Like when the Sorcerer Supreme, when Tilda Swinton characters, there's no separation. If you die in one, you die in the other. That's it. So no, I don't think he's alive in the astral plane. If his body dies, he dies in the astral plane. We saw that in the first Doctor Strange. When she's talking in the astral plane to Doctor Strange, and her body's being operated on, and the moment her body dies, she disappeared. So it would be inconsistent if they did it that way. So I don't think, you could be right, but I'm just saying, with the way I look at the movies, it seems like they're saying that's not the way it works. So I don't think they're going to be doing it that way. Adam Landrino writes, as a lifetime lover of Broadway, one of my favorite parts of film is the use of music, especially in Star Wars. Going into Solo, I was really excited to hear the Han Kira theme, and I was not disappointed. It was simply gorgeous. I don't pay a lot of attention a lot of times to the soundtrack going on, but there were several moments in Solo that I thought the music was used extremely well. I was particularly a fan of the callback to the Empire music when they're flying through the maelstrom. Bum 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 ba 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 ba. It was it was bone chilling. It was so cool to see. So yeah, one of the things they did quite well, and so I completely agree with you, is their use of music. They used it really well. Let's see. ZOMG Ruler writes, I didn't like Thor Ragnarok. Overrated filler movie in my opinion. Well, hey, that's why all film's subjective. I thought it was a brilliantly entertaining, fun, exciting, hilarious movie. If it didn't work for you, it didn't work for you, which is totally fine. Nothing wrong with that. It worked for most of us. Hence, it made over $800 million at the box office. So it did great, and I thought it was a great movie. I thought it was a great movie that I probably watched about 6 or 7 times. So if it didn't work for you, though, hey, it didn't work for you. Nothing wrong with that. Let's see. John KKI Junkie writes, saw Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom today, and afterwards some of the trailers. Boy, they spoil a lot of stuff in those trailers. Do you miss being able to see big movies without seeing any trailers for them prior? No, that's never been my experience in movies. There have always been trailers for movies. You need to sell the movie. A movie that doesn't put out a trailer is a movie you don't go to see. It's just, so you need to sell the movie. I did feel that the Jurassic World trailer went a little bit too far. Like, for instance, there's this moment in the movie, there's a suspense moment in the movie where they're outside, the volcano's exploding, Chris Pratt is standing outside of the big sphere thing that Bryce Dallas Howard and that other guy are inside of. And Chris Pratt's outside of it. And that one, dinosaur with the horns shows up and it looks like it's about to eat, Chris Pratt. It's like, duh, and it's a tension moment, right? Well, you show that in a trailer and then you cut away to something else. But what they did in the trailer was they showed that tension moment, and then they showed the resolution of the tension moment with the T-Rex coming in and eating that dinosaur. It's like, you don't give away the resolutions to moments of tension in the trailers. You set up the moments of tension in the trailers, but you don't show us the resolution to them. So I kind of felt they did show a little bit too much in those trailers. I did. But it didn't affect my enjoyment of the movie. I still enjoyed the film. Let's see. Razor's Edge Frisbee writes, rumors say Rocksteady might reveal Soup's game at E3. I have not heard that, but then again, I'm not somebody who keeps up to date on all the stuff that's going on in the world of E3 and video games and stuff like that. Okay, back up to the top because I forgot I started a little bit too late. Mason Barr writes, new trailer for Spider-Man animated film looks good. Yeah, I agree. I've been a little iffy on it, but the trailer looks good. I'm still not sure what I think about the animation style. I'm hearing some people really like it, some people don't. For me, the jury is still out a little bit. I'm not sure if I like or if I don't like the animation style. I have a feeling I'm going to need to see the movie to really get it in context and then really decide if I like the visual approach they took or if I didn't like the visual approach they took. I got to say, though, the movie's intrigued me. So I did like the trailer. Again, I'm still not sure if I'm bored with the visual style or not. Justin Welsh writes, "Hey, John, your talk of not having Dave Filoni as president is spot on. Reminds me of when people were calling for Oprah for president because of fame." Oh, no, that's it exactly. There is no way to justify, practically speaking, the notion of Dave Filoni should be president of Lucasfilm. It's a ridiculous notion. It's like, well, wait a minute, wait, time out. Let me get this straight. You want to take a movie studio that primarily makes live action movies and give the top executive position at this company to a guy who has never had an executive position of any kind in a studio and has never made a live action movie. And that's who you want to be the president of Lucasfilm. Oh my God. Like, seriously, to me, and I like Dave Filoni. I am a fan of Dave Filoni. I've gotten to sit down and talk with Dave Filoni. I think the dude's amazing. I think he's great. But this notion is utterly ridiculous. But he knows Star Wars. So does Pablo Hidalgo. Why not make Pablo Hidalgo president? Pablo Hidalgo has had more executive experience in the movie studio than Dave Filoni has. So why wouldn't you? Pablo Hidalgo knows Star Wars 10 times better than Dave Filoni does. Why wouldn't you make Pablo Hidalgo? I'm not saying make Pablo Hidalgo president of Lucasfilm necessarily, but if your whole basis of your argument is Dave Filoni knows Star Wars, there are other people who know Star Wars even more than him who have more experience working in a live action studio and some executive experience as well. The whole notion of let's go get a guy to be the top executive of a studio that primarily makes live action movies. Let's go get a guy who's never made a live action movie and has no executive experience whatsoever. Yeah, that sounds like a great idea. I don't get it. I understand that you know who Dave Filoni is and you like Dave Filoni. I get that. I respect that. But there's a lot of people who I know and I like. That doesn't mean I think they should be the president of Lucasfilm. I mean, dear God, think about it for a minute. Now, here's what I'm all for. Here's what I'm for. What I'd be all for, and also, anybody says, but John, George Lucas also trusted Dave Filoni. Well, you know what? Guess who put Kathleen Kennedy as the president of Lucasfilm? George Lucas. You know who trusted Kathleen Kennedy more than anybody else in the world? George Lucas did. George Lucas had complete, unshakable faith in Kathleen Kennedy, and he personally handpicked her to be the head of Lucasfilm. So if you want to use this argument, but George Lucas liked Dave Filoni, well, then you shouldn't want Kathleen Kennedy to be fired then, if that's the case. Look, here's what I'd be all for. I would completely be all for, number one, Disney or Lucasfilm or somebody giving a modestly budgeted film of some kind to Dave Filoni, a live action film for him to direct. Let him get a live action film under his belt, all right? Then maybe give him another one. Or then maybe give him a live action Star Wars film to direct at that point. Then maybe promote Dave Filoni to being like a vice president of some sorts, head of a story group at Lucasfilm, vice president of story or vice president of brand development or something like that. Give him a VP role. Let him then get some executive experience, working in that for a few years. Then maybe 7 or 8 years down the line, then go, okay, we have groomed this dude. He's done live action things. He knows our universe. He's got executive experience. He knows our corporate culture, blah, blah, blah. Now, like 7 years from now, elevate him and make him the new president of Lucasfilm. You know, have somebody else who's been president for a good 5, 6, 7 years. Change can be good. Change that person out. Put Dave Filoni in. I'm all for that. I'm not against Dave Filoni eventually becoming president of a Lucasfilm. But this whole notion of, yeah, let's take a guy who has never even made a live action film in his life and has absolutely zero studio experience working on any kind of an executive level. And let's make that guy the head executive of a studio that makes live action films. What could go wrong? I just don't understand that. And you're right. It completely reminds me of the situation of all those people who went, Oprah for president. Let me get this straight. This one, she's great. She's great. Somebody with no public office experience, never worked anything like that, and you want to give her the top executive job in government. It makes as much sense to me as giving it to Donald Trump. But, I mean, hey, they're equally stupid. The notion is equally stupid to me, but take that for what you will. Yeah, it reminds me of that situation completely. It's a ludicrous idea to me. To me, the idea is, not that people who think that are idiots or anything, not at all, but I think the notion itself is ludicrous. But hey, that's just the kind of the way I see it. Sid Vicious writes, White Boy Rick is dumped in September. Might suck. I no longer believe in that theory at all. I think the studios are starting to realize more and more that these traditional things of dumping grounds or the hot spots, or studios are starting to realize you can put a movie, if you got a really good movie, you can put it almost anywhere. I think studios are starting to think that. The notion that they're releasing it in like, here's what I would think. I think if it was originally scheduled to come out in early December, which is a prime kind of Oscar bait time, and then last second they decided to pull it and dump it in February or dump it in September or something, maybe then there's an argument to be made. But them scheduling it for release in September, honestly, I no longer believe that's any indication of whether they do or don't have faith in the film. Now, the movie might suck, it might be great, we don't know yet, but I'm just past the point that I think a movie originally scheduling a film to come out in a certain time of year means that the studio does not have faith in the film. I reject that. And I used to hold that to that way. I used to have that way of thinking. I no longer do. I still think there can be some release dates where a studio could put a movie where it shows that they have faith, like prime Oscar season, that shows some faith. But just because they don't put in there doesn't mean they think their movie sucks. So I'm not going to take release date as any indicator. I mean, there was a time when I did, but I no longer do that. I no longer take release date as an indicator that a movie is going to suck or anything like that. Mason Barr writes, excited for Spider-Gwen. Will dress my daughter up. Hey, my wife was excited to see Spider-Gwen. My wife's got Spider-Gwen outfits, actually. So, yeah, I think a lot of people were very, very excited. Actually, the day after, or the day of, that Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse trailer came out that showed Spider-Gwen, almost every movie news site ran with that as a headline. I mean, people were very excited about that. And I think you're right. I think there's going to be a lot of dads that are excited to dress their daughters up like that. And I think there are going to be a lot of girlfriends and wives like mine who is excited to dress up as it again. So there you go. Let's see. Reggie Phoenix writes, many sites say Black Panther chronologically comes out before Infinity War. However, the beginning of the film says the film takes place weeks after CW. What's right? No, it does not happen weeks before Infinity War. No, what is clear is that a lot of time has passed between the events of, say, Civil War and Infinity War. Because remember, Civil War, it's at the end of Civil War that Bucky goes into deep freeze. Clearly, enough time has passed that he's been in deep freeze for a while. He's come out of deep freeze. They've figured out a way to start treating him. They've been treating him, now to the point that when we see him in the post-credit scene of Black Panther, he's... and by the way, the post-credit scene of Black Panther takes place, I think, a ways away from the events of the movie Black Panther. Because then when we come across him in Black Panther, he's not only at a deep freeze, he's clearly been through a bunch of therapy, whether it's physical therapy, mental therapy, all that kind of stuff, that he's got it all back together again. Clearly there's passage of time. Clearly Black Panther suggests that the movie takes place just really shortly after the events of Civil War. So no, Black Panther, the events of Black Panther do not take place right before Infinity War. It just doesn't. The movie makes that clear. The movie makes it very, very clear. Punto Baby 1 writes, I have a suggestion for movie club, Legends of the Guardians, The Owls of Gaul. It's Zack Snyder's best movie in my opinion. I love it. I like Legends of the Guardians. It is not my favorite Zack Snyder film. Man of Steel is my favorite Zack Snyder film. 300 would probably be the next one after that. But Al Ghul might be my third favorite one. It's a really neat little animated film. I would never do it for a movie club, though, because not enough people have seen it. Just not enough people have seen it. I don't think people would watch it, despite the fact that I may say, hey, guys, this is a pretty good little animated film. You should check it out. I don't think enough people would, to be honest with you. But I agree with you. I like it. I like that movie. Gary Verbenen writes, Bonjour, Jean. Bonjour, Gary. Comment allez-vous? A big fan from Belgium. What's your favorite Asian film? For me, it's Hero, Oldboy, and Snowpiercer. Thanks and good health for your mom. Well, thank you so much for the well wishes for my mom. Easily, my all-time favorite Asian film is Infernal Affairs. Not only is it my all-time favorite Asian film, it is my all-time favorite cop film ever, of all time. It's just great. And for those of you who don't know, Infernal Affairs is the original film that was the basis for Martin Scorsese's film, The Departed. The Departed is basically, is a complete remake of Infernal Affairs. Just, it takes place in Boston instead of, an Asian city. It is a complete remake of Infernal Affairs, and The Departed won Best Picture at the Academy Awards. It won Martin Scorsese his first Academy Award for Best Director. I think Mark Wahlberg. There were several acting nominations as well in that. It's a great movie, and I love The Departed, but still the original Infernal Affairs is my all-time favorite cop film, and that, to this day, remains my all-time favorite Asian film. Let's see. Metal Gear writes, what happened to the Chris Benoit movie Crossface? Nothing. It's never gotten to that stage. Look, everybody thinks that when you hear that a movie, somebody bought the rights to a movie and they're going to be developing it, that means, in the next year or two, a movie's going to come out. 80% of the time, that movie never gets made. There's a lot of steps that need to happen in between when a company purchases rights to a film, which happens all the time, and they hire a writer or hire a director to oversee it getting developed. And then most of the time, that movie never actually happens. You still got to get investors. You still got to get the money together. You got to come up with a plan. You got to make sure you get the story in the right place that you think it could be commercially viable, blah, 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 blah. So at this point, they announced a director, a good director too, with Lexi Alexander. And they don't have it yet. It could be 5 years before we ever see the movie, or we may never see it. What happened to it? Well, nothing. It's just that, why would we have heard anything by now? So it may still happen, it may not, but we're just not at a point yet that we can really say, because by saying what happened to it, that makes it sound like they announced it was coming, there's a release date, here's starring it, blah, blah, blah. No, they just announced they were kind of going to try to put it together, but it just never got anywhere. Or they don't have it yet to the place. And a lot of times these movie projects, they can take years and years and years and years to finally pull them together and make them happen. A lot of movies come out where the director talks about, I've spent 7 years trying to get this movie pulled together. Like, that could be the case with Crossface, or it may never come about. We already all knew it was a very delicate situation. It was a very delicate subject matter. And, we'll just have to wait and see. So at this point, we shouldn't ask, what happened to it? Well, it was never something real to begin with for something to happen to it. It was a concept, and we'll just have to see where it goes. But as far as I know, there hasn't been any significant movement on it yet. Gary Verbenen writes, where is the Chris Benoit biopic? Great minds think alike. Same answer as before. Grandmaster writes, hey, John, I have a friend who aggressively consists that most movies have to make... Oh, you probably mean insists. I have a friend who aggressively insists that most movies have to make 5 times their budget to break even. Is there any example where this could be right? Nope, that's completely not true. The only way I could think that that's true is if the budget was $50 and they spent $10 million on marketing. Okay, then it needs to make significant time in its production budget. But no, a movie that's made for $200 million does not need to make $1 billion to break even. They're just incorrect about that. They're absolutely just incorrect about that. They need to make a lot of money, but they don't need to make $1 billion. Let's see. Luis David writes, since we got the trailer for Bumblebee, Spider-Man, and Mortal Engines, over under 20%, we get an Aquaman teaser in the next couple of weeks. I'm still believing we're going to get Aquaman at Comic-Con. I think they're holding on to an Aquaman trailer to make a big splash. Get it? No pun intended. I think they're holding on to the Aquaman trailer to make a big splash at Comic-Con. Look, we already know Marvel isn't doing a Hall H presentation this year at Comic-Con. I don't know why. To me, it's a ridiculous. But then again, what do you talk about? After seeing Infinity War, what can you actually talk about? So maybe I do get it. But it means there's an open opportunity here for Warner Brothers, once again, to really take ownership of Comic-Con and make a bold statement and make a huge impact with Aquaman. They have an opportunity to make Aquaman the talk of Comic-Con. They really do. And I think they're going to hold off on releasing a new trailer until Comic-Con, and I believe that's when the trailer's going to come, and I believe it's going to get everybody talking, because I know a few people who were at CinemaCon in Vegas when they showed footage for Aquaman, and they all said it looked really good. So I think, I think Comic-Con is when we're going to see that. Sid Vicious writes, profit on a $150 million movie if its gross is $268 million. No, there's no profit there. You got to take away about at least 90, probably 100 million you take away for the theater's cut. So now you're left with about 170 million. So now you've got 170 million gross on a $150 movie. Oh, now you got to take marketing into consideration. On a $150 million movie, minimum you're talking is a $50 million investment for marketing. So now you're talking about a movie that's lost over $30 million and probably more. So no, most situations, a movie that makes $268 million is a money loser if the production budget was $150 million. I Do Monologues writes, if you listen closely, you can hear Henry Cavill screaming, and still no Man of Steel 2. Maybe DC thinks Superman can't carry a franchise. I don't believe that. What I believe is that they have they have change coming. I think the very fact that we don't have a Batman or a Superman movie like locked in is that there is massive change coming to the DCEU. If the change is going to be a full reboot, I don't know. If it's going to be something else, I don't know. But I think the fact that we're getting all these other movies announced and still no Man of Steel 2, still no Batman movie, I think that's an indicator that there's significant change coming. Whether that change is reboot, whether that change is something else, who knows? But I think it's pretty clear they've got something significant in mind. So we'll have to just kind of wait and see how that's going to transpire. Angel Silva writes, what's your favorite animated movie trailer this week? I'm probably going to go with How to Train Your Dragon. I liked the Into the Spider-Verse was good. The Wreck-It Ralph 2 trailer was quite good. But I think the best one out of them... Now, I'm not saying How to Train Your Dragon is going to be the best movie out of the three. I'm just saying, if you're asking me my favorite trailer out of the animated films this week, I'm going to go with How to Train Your Dragon. That one had the most impact on me. So I'm going to say that one. And this week was crazy for trailers, man. So many trailers this week. Born Bond Bauer writes, if you have a mountain full of vibranium, then there should be no excuse why every Avenger doesn't have a vibranium suit. This ruins everything. Well, one of the things that I did not like, and this isn't a problem with the movie Black Panther, but really a decision they made with the MCU, is that vibranium is so abundant. Like, they've been using vibranium for everything. The way they describe it in the movie, that Claw describes in the movie, is that they've used vibranium for everything over the past hundreds of years, and they've still barely scratched the amount of pure amount of vibranium that they have. It completely takes away the uniqueness or specialness of vibranium. It's like, why doesn't every single Wakandan citizen have a full vibranium suit then? Why does only the Black Panther have this pure vibranium suit? Why isn't Iron Man allowed then to make a suit out of vibranium? Hey, the most indestructible metal in the galaxy? Yeah. Why doesn't Black Widow have a vibranium suit? Why doesn't Hawkeye have a vibranium suit? Why doesn't War Machine have a War Machine armor made out of vibranium? Why don't they all have vibranium suits? If they've got so much of it, there's just no... And that, I do wish that they'd set it up that vibranium was a little bit more rare than that to make it special. Because you're right, it creates some problems with them. It's like, wait a minute, well, why doesn't this person have a suit made out of vibranium? Like, instead of giving Spider-Man a ridiculous Iron Man Jr. suit, why don't you just give him a traditional Spider-Man thing, but it's actually made out of vibranium? Why not that? I don't know. I think it is one of the more questionable decisions they made in the MCU, but we'll see what they've got a long-term plan for that. Johnny Banks writes, "Hey John, I just found out last night that my brother committed suicide. I'm going to be taking a break from the internet for a while, but just want to let you know that I really appreciate it." Well, thank you so much for that, Johnny. I appreciate that. And if this is true, because I've had people write stuff in like this that was not true, but if that is true, obviously, deepest condolences to you and your family. Obviously, suicide stuff's been in the news lately. I mean, Anthony Bourdain, that whole thing just happened. So deepest thoughts, condolences, and best wishes to you, your family, and everybody in your circles, if that's the case. I can't think of anything more painful than that. I mean, that must just be a horrible, terrible thing that I can't even begin to pretend to be able to identify with. I mean, thankfully for me. But best condolences, most deepest condolences, best thoughts and wishes to you and your family, man. And thank you for sharing that. Caleb Bradford writes, "Thoughts on the Serenity trailer?" Well, I'm going to assume you mean the Matthew McConaughey one. Intriguing. It's got a little bit of a spooky, almost supernatural element to it as well. Anne Hathaway, just saw her in Ocean's 8. She's great in Ocean's 8. She looks like she'll be solid in this. Jaimon Hansu is in it. So for those of you who don't know, my all-time favorite Spielberg film is actually Amistad. Amistad is my all-time favorite Steven Spielberg film. And it had Matthew McConaughey and Jaimon Hansu. And that movie was in like 1997. So that's like 20 years ago. So this is like a 20th reunion tour for McConaughey and Jaimon Hansu together on screen again, which was really exciting to me. But it's got a little bit of a supernatural, like it goes from just like, almost like a gritty, like little murder drama. And then all of a sudden is this got some supernatural elements to it? Like, it's a good trailer. It's got me really intrigued. So I dug the trailer. Let's see. Ben Lorenowitz writes, "Any info about Willow 2? The chances of it happening? Willow's one of my favorite movies growing up. Mad Mardigan was a fantasy movie Han Solo." Yes, he kind of was. I can't imagine there ever being another one. I could imagine someday, somewhere down the line, somebody does a reboot of Willow. That's possible. But it's not like Willow found a place in the pop culture consciousness like a Star Wars did or a Wizard of Oz did. Some people will remember Willow, and I loved Willow, but I can't see any studio thinking it would be a good business decision to make one, so I can't see it happening. Maybe a reboot some point someday, but I can't see them doing a sequel, but maybe they will. I mean, who knows? Never say never, but just off of the information that we have, I have a hard time believing that they would actually go ahead and do something like that. Let's see. Brandon Reeves writes, "Hey, John, have you watched the OA on Netflix? It's probably my favorite Netflix show. Can't wait for season 2. No, never watched it. And quite frankly, one of the reasons I didn't watch it is because I had a few friends of mine watch it and said they didn't like it. So I haven't seen it. Man, Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime, they're all cranking out so much content. It's hard to keep up with what's good and what isn't. But no, I have not seen the OA on Netflix at this point. Let's see. Terry Kanu Irigubu writes, "Who do you think is the better actor between Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans? I personally give the edge to Evans." You know what? I think most people would go Robert Downey Jr. easy. I think it's closer than most people think, but I will still give the edge to Robert Downey Jr. There's a reason Robert Downey Jr. is an Academy Award-winning actor. He's a great actor. Chris Evans is also a very, very good actor. I am a big fan of Chris Evans. I would, though, right now still give the edge to Robert Downey Jr. But not by that big of a margin. Pretty small one. But, Robert Downey, even before Iron Man, Robert Downey Jr. had an Academy Award nomination. And there's a reason for that. He's a great actor. And I think Chris Evans has the potential to be even better than Robert Downey Jr. Give him some more time, though, but I already think he's really great. So while I think it's close, personally, I will give the edge to Robert Downey Jr. All right, then we get to Edgar Magana, and we already asked you onto our questions. That's it, guys. We are all caught up now on all the questions that you guys have sent in, and we are all caught up with our companion video. Thank you so much for joining me, guys. Don't forget, every day on the John Campus Show and on Open Mic, I take your live questions, and remember, you can send them in knowing that even if they don't get answered live on that show, and most of them do, but if we don't, they do get answered in these companion videos. So thanks a lot for joining me, guys. My name's John Campia. Thanks so much for being here, and until our next video, bye-bye.